The unexpected meeting. Jake sat in the cockpit of his ship, staring out into the cold, endless space. His mind was heavy with thoughts of Earth, of his home. He had seen it all, the destruction, the wars, the endless battles. His ship was one of the last surviving vessels in the human fleet. They had been on the run for months, avoiding the alien forces that hunted them like prey. And now Jake felt as if they were running out of time. There had to be a way to save humanity, but how? The galaxy seemed to offer no answers, only more destruction. "Captain, we're running low on fuel," said one of the crew members. A man named Tom. He was sitting behind Jake, monitoring the ship's systems. "We can't keep flying like this," Jake sighed. He knew the situation was dire. Earth was lost, and humanity was on the edge of extinction. There was no way to escape the war, no way to win. Or so he thought. Then the signal came. A soft beep echoed through the ship's comm system, barely audible over the hum of the engines. Jake leaned forward, his fingers gripping the controls. As he looked at the screen, "It's coming from Tarian," Tom said, reading the coordinates from his station. "It's an uncharted planet. No one's ever mapped it before." Jake's heart raced. "Tarian? What do we know about it?" "Not much, Captain. Just that it's dangerous. It's in a part of space where many ships have gone missing. But this signal is different. It's a distress call, but it's weak." Jake thought for a moment, his mind spinning. The unknown planet could be their last hope or their grave. There was only one way to find out. "Set a course for Tarian. We have no other options," Jake said, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. Full speed ahead. The ship's engines roared to life as they changed direction. Jake looked back at the crew. Each of them wore the same expression, uncertainty mixed with a flicker of hope. They all knew they were running out of time. If this was their last chance, they had to take it. Hours passed as they made their way to Tarian. The journey was long, and the crew was silent. Everyone was lost in their own thoughts, trying to prepare for whatever awaited them on this strange world. Finally, they arrived. The planet Tarian was shrouded in mist, its surface barely visible through the clouds. It looked abandoned, lifeless, yet there was something about it that seemed alive. A strange energy pulsed from the surface, a silent call that seemed to beckon them. "Captain, we're entering the atmosphere," Tom called. "This is it," Jake nodded. "Prepare for landing. Stay sharp, everyone. We don't know what we're walking into." The ship descended slowly, breaking through the clouds and revealing a desolate landscape below. The ground was covered in cracked, black stone, and towering structures loomed in the distant ruins from a forgotten time. The air was thick with silence, the kind of silence that felt heavy, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. As they landed, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The tension was thick, like a storm waiting to break. He stood up from his seat and turned to the crew. "All right, everyone, stay close and stay alert. We don't know what's waiting for us down there." The crew nodded and followed Jake as he led them out of the ship and onto the surface. The ground was cold beneath their boots, and the wind carried a strange scent, something unfamiliar, something alien. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. It wasn't just the planet that felt strange. It was everything about this place. They made their way toward the ruins, moving carefully through the barren landscape. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an eerie red glow over everything. The ruins seemed to stretch on forever, as if they were part of a vast city, now lost to time. It was hard to believe that anyone could still be alive here. But then, they saw her. A figure stood at the edge of the ruins, barely visible in the shadows. She was small, almost fragile looking, but there was something about her presence that made Jake pause. She wasn't human, she was something else entirely. Her skin was a soft shade of blue, her eyes large and dark, and her hair shimmered with strange iridescent hues, almost as if it moved on its own. She looked young, maybe no older than Jake's sister back home, but there was a wisdom in her eyes that didn't belong to someone so young. The alien girl stepped forward, her movements graceful but hesitant, as if she wasn't sure whether to trust them. "You are human?" she asked, her voice soft, almost timid. Jake nodded, stepping closer. "Yes, we are. My name is Jake. We're here because we need help. We're running out of time. Can you help us?" The alien girl looked at him with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "You shouldn't be here. This place, it is dangerous, but I know what you seek." Jake's heart raced. This was it. This could be the answer. The girl was their last hope. She stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. "You are the last of your kind. Your people. They are in danger, and you have only one chance left. You must act now, or it will be too late." Jake's mind was spinning. "What do you mean? How can we help?" The alien girl took a deep breath, her hands trembling. "I have something that could save your people, but you must trust me. There is no time to waste. Humanity's last opportunity lies in your hands." Jake stared at her, unsure of what to do. She was shy, fragile in appearance, yet there was something in her words that felt powerful, like she knew the fate of everything. His heart pounded in his chest. Could they really trust her? Was this truly their last chance? "I'm listening," Jake said, his voice steady but his mind racing. "Tell me what to do." The girl hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me. I will show you the way." The tense alliance. Jake followed the alien girl through the ruins, his heart racing. The air was thick with tension, and every step they took seemed to echo in the silence of the desolate city. His crew moved close behind him, their faces a mix of curiosity and fear. They didn't know what to expect, but they knew they couldn't turn back now. This was their last chance. The alien girl led them deeper into the ruins, her small form barely visible in the shadows of the towering structures. The buildings around them looked ancient, their surfaces covered in strange symbols that Jake couldn't understand. The air smelled of dust and something else, something metallic, almost as if the city itself was alive, breathing in time with their footsteps. Jake had so many questions, but he knew better than to ask. The girl hadn't said much since she first spoke, only that she knew what they sought, and that it was their last opportunity. Her voice had been soft, almost fragile, yet there was an edge to it, something in her words that made Jake believe. She knew more than she was letting on. "Where are we going?" Jake finally asked, his voice breaking the silence. The girl glanced back at him, her dark eyes filled with a strange mixture of fear and determination. "To the heart of the city," she said quietly. "There is something there. Something that can help you. But we must hurry. Time is running out." Jake nodded, though he still didn't fully understand what she meant. He glanced at his crew, each of them lost in their thoughts, but they all had the same question. What was this girl leading them to? Was it really the answer they'd been searching for, or were they walking into another trap? They continued moving through the ruins, passing broken walls and empty streets. The further they went, the more Jake felt like they were being drawn into something much bigger than themselves. The alien girl moved with a quiet confidence, her steps steady as if she had walked this path 100 times before. Eventually, they came to a large courtyard, surrounded by walls that seemed to stretch endlessly upward. In the center of the courtyard stood a massive stone structure, its surface covered in cracks and vines. It looked older than anything Jake had ever seen. And yet, there was something powerful about it, as if it had been waiting for something, ... or someone. "This is it," the girl said, stopping in front of the structure. "This is where the answers lie." Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. He stepped forward, his boots crunching against the gravel beneath him. The rest of the crew followed, their eyes wide as they looked around, unsure of what to make of the strange place. The girl had said they were running out of time, but Jake had no idea what was about to happen. "Do you have any idea what this place is?" Jake asked, turning to the girl. She shook her head. "I only know that it holds what you need. But you must be careful. There are forces here that will not let you succeed without a fight." Jake's chest tightened. He didn't like the sound of that. "What kind of forces?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with concern. The girl hesitated, her eyes darting nervously around the courtyard. "The Guardians," she whispered. "They protect the power within. They will do anything to keep it hidden. And you must prove you are worthy to wield it." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Guardians? What kind of guardians were they talking about? He had no idea what the girl meant, but it was clear that whatever lay ahead would not be easy. Before Jake could ask any more questions, a loud noise echoed through the courtyard, a deep rumble that seemed to shake the ground beneath them. The walls around them trembled, and the air grew thick with an unnatural heat. Jake's crew immediately tensed, their hands reaching for weapons. "What is that?" Tom shouted, his voice filled with panic. The girl didn't answer. Instead, she turned and began running toward the massive structure, her feet barely touching the ground. "Hurry, we don't have much time," she called over her shoulder. Jake didn't hesitate. He followed her, his crew close behind. They reached the base of the structure, where the girl pressed her palm against a smooth stone wall. A low hum filled the air, and the wall began to shift, revealing a hidden entrance. Without looking back, the girl disappeared into the darkness, and Jake, though uncertain, followed her in. Inside, the temperature dropped sharply. The walls were lined with strange markings that glowed faintly, casting an eerie light across the narrow hallway. The air smelled old, like ancient secrets had been buried here for centuries. "Stay alert," Jake said to his crew, his voice echoing in the silence. "We don't know what we're up against." The crew nodded, their eyes scanning the dark corners of the room. The girl moved ahead of them, her pace quickening as they ventured deeper into the heart of the structure. The deeper they went, the stronger the sense of unease grew. It was as if the building itself was alive, watching them, judging them. Finally, they reached a large chamber, its center dominated by a strange, glowing crystal. The light from the crystal bathed the room in an otherworldly glow, illuminating the faces of Jake and his crew. At the base of the crystal, the girl stopped, her face pale as she stared at the glowing object. "This is it," she whispered. "This is the power you need." Jake approached the crystal cautiously. It pulsed with an energy that felt both familiar and alien at the same time. It was beautiful, but there was something unsettling about it, something that made his instincts scream for him to step back. Before he could say anything, the ground beneath them shook again, and the temperature dropped even further. The air grew heavy, thick with a dark energy that filled the chamber. Jake's crew looked around, eyes wide with fear. They weren't alone. Something was coming. This part continues to build tension as Jake and his crew ventured deeper into the alien structure, sensing danger and uncertainty. The glowing crystal offers a hint at the potential, the turning point. The ground shook violently as the dark energy in the chamber grew stronger. Jake could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. His pulse quickened, and the weight of the moment settled on him like a heavy blanket. He had seen danger before, but nothing like this. The room felt alive, like it was holding its breath. The girl, Lyra, stood still, her eyes wide, staring at the glowing crystal in the center of the chamber. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "It's starting," she whispered. "The Guardians are coming." Jake's eyes scanned the room, his heart racing. "Guardians? What do you mean by that?" Before Lyra could answer, a low, rumbling sound echoed through the chamber. From the shadows at the far side of the room, figures began to emerge. They were tall, cloaked in dark robes, their faces hidden in the shadows. Their movements were slow but deliberate, as if they had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Jake's crew immediately raised their weapons, eyes wide with fear. "What do we do now?" Tom whispered, his hand shaking on his rifle. Lyra turned to them, her eyes filled with urgency. "Don't fight them," she said. "The Guardians cannot be defeated by force. You must prove your worth." Jake's mind raced. Prove their worth? How? What did she mean? The Guardians moved closer, their feet silent against the stone floor. Jake could see their hands now long, claw-like fingers that seemed to stretch out toward him. The air grew colder, and the chamber seemed to pulse with a strange energy. "They are not here to fight," Lyra continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "They are here to test you. Only those who are worthy can use the power within the crystal." The Guardians stopped in front of the crystal, forming a circle around it. Their heads tilted as if they were watching Jake and his crew, studying them. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Jake could feel the weight of their gaze on him, like they were waiting for him to make the first move. "What are we supposed to do?" Jake asked, his voice tight with uncertainty. Lyra stepped forward, her gaze locked on the crystal. "Step forward," she said. "Place your hand on the crystal. The Guardians will not let you do this unless you are worthy." Jake hesitated. His heart hammered in his chest. He had no idea what this would mean, what this power would do to him or his crew. But one thing was clear, there was no turning back now. This was their only chance. Taking a deep breath, Jake stepped forward. His boots echoed on the stone floor as he moved toward the crystal. His crew followed him closely, their expressions a mix of fear and hope. They didn't know what was going to happen, but they had no choice but to trust Lyra and the strange power she promised. Jake reached the crystal and raised his hand, the glow from the stone reflecting in his eyes. His fingers hovered above the surface for a moment, before he placed them gently against it. The instant his hand touched the crystal, the room seemed to explode with light. The ground trembled beneath him, and the air became thick with energy. He felt a surge of power rush through his body, a feeling unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as if the universe itself was flowing through him, filling every inch of his being with energy. His senses sharpened, and for a brief moment, he could see everything, every corner of the ruins, every stone, every crack in the walls. His mind raced with visions of battles, of lost civilizations, of the future of Earth and its place in the galaxy. But just as quickly as it came, the sensation faded, leaving Jake breathless and disoriented. He stumbled back, his heart pounding in his chest. His crew rushed to his side, their faces filled with concern. "Captain, are you okay?" Tom asked, his voice urgent. Jake took a deep breath, steadying himself. The power from the crystal still lingered inside him, but it was manageable. "I'm fine," he said, though his voice was shaky, "but I felt it. I know what this is. This power can save humanity." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes wide with something that resembled awe. "You have proven yourself worthy," she said softly. "Now you must use it. The power within the crystal can turn the tide of the war. It is yours to command." Jake looked down at his hand, still tingling with energy from the crystal. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Could this really be the answer? Could this one artifact, this ancient power, be enough to save Earth from the edge of destruction? Before he could say anything, the Guardians stepped back, their eyes still fixed on him. They didn't speak, but their presence seemed to acknowledge something. The test was complete, and Jake had passed. "Take it," Lyra urged, her voice filled with urgency. "Take the power. It's your last chance." Jake hesitated for only a moment before reaching out to the crystal once more. This time, the energy didn't just rush through him, it flowed out of him into the world around him. He felt the power connect with everything, the very fabric of the universe itself. He could feel it in the air, in the ground, in the stars. Above, the crystal began to hum, its light growing brighter, filling the chamber with a blinding glow. Jake felt the power surge within him, and suddenly, he understood. He knew what he had to do. He wasn't just holding this power, he was becoming a part of it. "This is it," Jake whispered, his voice full of determination. "This is our chance." Lyra stepped back, her expression filled with a mix of fear and hope. "Use it wisely," she said. "The power can save your people, but it can also destroy them. You must decide." The Guardians moved once again, their forms blurring. In the light, they stood still, their eyes locked on Jake. The room was quiet now, the only sound the hum of the crystal as it pulsed with power. Jake's heart was racing, but his mind was clear. This was humanity's last chance. They had to take it. He turned to his crew, his eyes full of resolve. "We're going to save Earth," he said, "no matter what it takes." As the words left his lips, the chamber filled with an energy unlike anything they had ever felt. The power from the crystal surged through them, and Jake knew this was only the beginning. The battle for survival, the crystal's energy still hummed in the air, but now it felt different, stronger, as if it was alive. Jake could feel its power coursing through him, and he knew that this was the moment that would change everything. He glanced at Lyra, whose eyes were filled with both fear and hope. It was clear she knew how dangerous this power could be. "They'll come for us," Lyra whispered, her voice tense. "The Guardians won't let you use it so easily." Jake didn't need any more warnings. He had felt it. The energy in the crystal was unlike anything humanity had ever known. It was their last chance. His crew was already positioned, watching the dark shadows of the chamber's entrance, waiting for whatever would come next. Suddenly, the ground shook again. The tremor was stronger this time, rattling the walls of the chamber. Jake's grip tightened on the crystal. He could feel its power thrumming beneath his skin. The Guardians, the strange shadowy figures, were not gone. They were still watching, waiting for him to make his move. "Get ready," Jake said, his voice steady but his mind racing. He knew the fight was inevitable. Whatever force was coming for them, he wasn't about to let it take away their last hope. Lyra stepped back, her eyes never leaving the entrance. "Be careful," she warned. "They're coming faster now." The rumbling grew louder, and then, from the shadows, they appeared. Figures cloaked in black, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Jake's crew reacted instantly, raising their weapons, but the Guardians didn't move to attack. They stood in a circle around the crystal, blocking the only way out. "What do they want?" Tom, one of Jake's crew members, asked, his voice low and full of fear. "Why are they just standing there?" Lyra's face was tense, her hands clenched at her sides. "They are testing you," she said. "They will not allow you to leave until you prove you can control the power." Jake felt his heartbeat in his throat. Control the power? What did that mean? He had felt the crystal's energy. It was raw, untamed, and he could barely grasp it. But there was no choice. They had to fight. He had to prove he could wield the power, or all would be lost. The Guardians moved as one, stepping forward with slow, deliberate steps. The air seemed to crackle with their presence, like the tension before a storm. Jake knew this was no ordinary fight. He wasn't just up against alien soldiers. He was facing something far more ancient, far more powerful. He lifted his hand, holding the crystal high. The light from it grew brighter, casting long shadows across the chamber. It was then that he felt it, something inside him, deep in his bones, beginning to change. The power of the crystal was filling every part of him, every thought, every breath. It wasn't just energy. It was a force, a living force. "Now, Jake," Lyra cried, her voice sharp with urgency. "Use the power." Jake didn't hesitate. He raised his arm, focusing all the energy he had gathered into his palm. The crystal flared with light, and in an instant, a burst of raw energy shot out, filling the chamber with blinding light. The Guardians staggered back, but they did not fall. Their forms shimmered, as if the energy hadn't touched them. Jake's heart raced. He had felt the power, but it hadn't been enough. The Guardians were not normal beings. They were protectors of the ancient power within the crystal, and they were not going to let him use it so easily. The Guardians closed in, their glowing eyes fixed on Jake. They moved with terrifying speed, their hands reaching for him, their fingers like claws. Jake tried to raise his arm again, but the power felt different now. It was harder to control, slipping through his fingers like sand. The Guardians were testing him, pushing him to his limits. "Jake," Lyra screamed. "You have to focus. Focus on the power." But Jake's thoughts were scattered. The energy from the crystal was overwhelming, flooding his mind with visions, with images of war, destruction, and death. He saw Earth as home, his people being destroyed by the very aliens that stood before him. He saw the end, the complete collapse of everything. The Guardians were getting closer, their hands now inches from him. Jake's mind was swirling, but then, in a split second, something clicked. He realized he wasn't just fighting with his body. This wasn't about strength. It was about control, about mastering the energy flowing through him. He wasn't the only one with power. The crystal was waiting for him to understand that it could only work if he embraced it fully. If he accepted that it wasn't just an object, it was part of him. With a deep breath, Jake closed his eyes and focused. The energy surged again, but this time it didn't escape him. It flowed through his body, into his arms, into his hands, until it was a part of him. He opened his eyes, and the crystal pulsed with light, its energy now in perfect harmony with his own. The Guardians hesitated. For a moment, everything was still. Then, with a roar of light, Jake unleashed the power. The chamber erupted in energy, the blast so powerful that it shook the walls and sent the Guardians flying back. The light from the crystal filled the room, blinding everything in its path. Jake felt the power rush through him like a storm, overwhelming and beautiful all at once. He could feel the power not just in the crystal, but in everything around him, everything in the galaxy. The Guardians struggled to stand, their bodies shaking, but they did not move to fight again. Instead, they stepped back, bowing their heads as if recognizing Jake's mastery over the energy. Jake lowered his arm, breathing heavily. The power inside him was still there, but it no longer felt overwhelming. It was calm, controlled. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes wide with awe. "You did it," she whispered. "You've proven yourself worthy." Jake looked around at his crew. They were all still standing, their faces filled with disbelief and wonder. "We're not done yet," he said, his voice steady but filled with purpose. "We have a war to win." The Guardians slowly began to fade into the shadows, disappearing as if they had never been there. Jake knew that their test was over. That they had accepted him, the power was his now. And with it, he had the chance to save humanity. But the battle was far from over. The war was waiting, and now it was time for him to lead. A new beginning. The battle was over. The Guardians had vanished, leaving behind nothing but the stillness of the chamber. Jake stood in the center, the power of the crystal flowing through him, filling his every movement with strength and purpose. His crew was still recovering from the shock, but their eyes were filled with awe. They had seen Jake wield the power, and they knew they were no longer just survivors. They were part of something greater. Lyra stepped forward, her face filled with a mixture of admiration and relief. "You did it, Jake," she said, her voice soft. "You've proven yourself worthy. The power is yours now." Jake nodded, but his mind was focused. The crystal still pulsed with energy, its light flickering as if responding to his thoughts. He could feel its power, the vastness of it, and he knew that this was only the beginning. This power could save humanity, but it could also destroy them if he wasn't careful. He had to be sure. There could be no room for mistakes. "We can save Earth," Jake said, his voice steady but full of determination. "But it won't be easy. We have to use this power the right way." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the same sense of urgency that Jake felt. "You're right. The power is strong, but it's also dangerous. You must control it, or it will control you." Jake turned to face his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his command. The weight of leadership settled on him like never before. It wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about leading his people, guiding them to victory, and ensuring they had a future. "We've been running for too long," Jake said. "But now we stand a chance. We'll take this power and fight back. Together." His crew exchanged looks, their expressions filled with uncertainty and hope. They had followed him this far, through the darkness and the danger. Now they were trusting him with their lives and with the fate of Earth. "We're with you, Captain," Tom said, his voice firm. Whatever it takes. Jake felt a surge of gratitude for his crew, for the loyalty and courage they had shown. But he knew the real fight was just beginning. They weren't out of danger yet. The alien forces that had destroyed Earth's defenses would not give up easily. The battle ahead would be their toughest yet. We need to move fast, Jake said. Turning back to the crystal. The longer we wait, the more we risk losing everything. We'll take this power, and we'll use it to crush our enemies. But first, we need to get back to Earth. Lyra stepped beside him, her eyes filled with resolve. I'll help you. I know where we can find the energy we need to power the weapon fully. But it won't be easy. The journey will be long, and there will be more challenges along the way. Jake nodded. He had no illusions about what lay ahead. But he was ready. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he was truly in control. Then let's go, Jake said, his voice filled with purpose. We have a war to win. The crew gathered their equipment, preparing for the next leg of their journey. The ship was ready, and the energy from the crystal would give them the strength they needed. Jake felt the weight of the decision on his shoulders, but he also felt the power of it. This was their chance. They were going to fight back. As they made their way back to the ship, Jake couldn't help but look back at the ruins of Tarion. The alien city was silent now, its mysteries hidden in the shadows. They had come here seeking hope, and they had found it. But Jake knew they couldn't stay. They had to return to Earth, to the people who still needed them. The ship's engines hummed to life as they lifted off from Tarion's surface. Jake looked out the window, watching as the planet grew smaller and smaller, fading into the distance. They were leaving behind an ancient world, a world that had given them a second chance. But their future was ahead of them now, and it was up to Jake and his crew to make sure they didn't waste it. As the ship soared through the stars, Lyra approached Jake, her eyes focused on the distance. Do you really think we can win? She asked softly. Jake met her gaze, his eyes steady. We have no choice, he said. This is it. Earth is counting on us. Lyra nodded, a quiet understanding passing between them. She had seen the darkness of the galaxy, but now she was standing with humanity, fighting for a future. And for the first time, she truly believed they could win. The journey back to Earth was long, and every day brought new challenges. The power from the crystal was still inside them, fueling their hope and their determination. But Jake knew they were not the only ones with power. The alien forces were still out there, and they would not give up easily. Every move they made, every decision they took, could tip the balance of the war. But Jake didn't fear the future. He had seen what humanity was capable of. He had seen it in his crew, in Lyra, and in the heart of every person who refused to give up. They had a chance now, and he would make sure they used it. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the ship entered Earth's atmosphere. The planet below was a dark, scarred reminder of the war, but Jake could see the light of hope starting to shine again. They had made it. They had come back, and they had the power to fight. As the ship touched down, Jake looked out the window, his heart filled with resolve. They were home. And now they would fight for a future. Let's get to work, Jake said, his voice steady. This war isn't over yet. But we're going to finish it.